Today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk. Are you interested in long-range competitive shooting but don't have any idea where to start? Well, call in now with your questions for Armageddon Gear's Tom Fuller. Plus, an initiative from the Georgia Wildlife Federation to introduce college students to hunting. I'll look at important lawsuits in Hawaii and D.C. and more. And as always, call 866-TALK-GUN with your comments, questions, and range reports. And now, here's Tom.
All right, let's do this thing. Tom Gresham here at Gun Talk. What do you think, 3-4 hours we'll talk about guns? Well, that's just today. We talk about guns all the time, don't we? I mean, how often, here's a question for you. How often in the course of a week does your conversation somehow touch on the subject of shooting, hunting, guns, self-defense? Never? Once? Twice? Twice a day? Just curious if it comes up at all. By the way, if you'd like to join us, it's 866-TALK-GUN or just call me at Tom Talk Gun. If you are unfamiliar with what we do here, let me give you the Cliff Notes. I'm Tom Gresham. I'm the host. To find out more about what we do, go to guntalk.com. We do TV shows and videos and instructional DVDs and everything else that involves the safe, responsible use of firearms. Everything from hunting to competition to self-defense to collecting. Trading. Are you a gun trader? Man, that's a whole different thing. And some of the most knowledgeable people I know about guns are the gun traders. And it makes sense. If you're going to make good trades, you really have to know what you're doing. You have to know at a level that a lot of people couldn't possibly understand. When people say, well, did all the serial numbers match? And you go, what are you talking about? There's only one serial number. Well, no. Especially on military guns. And the military gun traders are so knowledgeable, not just about the guns, but about the history and when they were used and how they were developed. It's fascinating. Frankly, it's an area I've never gotten into. I've never been a gun trader. I've never been a gun collector. People always say, well, you must have a big collection of guns. So, well, I have a few guns, but I'm not what you'd call a collector. To me, a collector is somebody who, wants to acquire a particular type of gun. Some people collect, for instance, single action revolvers or lever action guns or Rugers or Colts or whatever. I'm kind of eclectic about it. I just have guns, just stuff. Nothing special, nothing fancy, and certainly no theme to it at all. If you are a gun collector, if you have landed on one particular area, how did you get to that? I've always been curious. What attracts you to become a Colt collector or a Ruger collector or a military arms collector or whatever it is? How does that start? And is it like every kind of addiction? Oh yeah, I can stop anytime I want. Sure you can. Right. Okay. I was having some conversations earlier this week with folks online about hunting rifles and calibers, and there definitely is a move or an awareness, maybe it's a better way to put it, away from Magnum rifle cartridges for hunting. I think people have figured out you don't have to have a Magnum to have an effective deer rifle or elk rifle or moose rifle. And look, there's nothing wrong with Magnums. If you can shoot them well and if the recoil doesn't bother you, then they'll certainly do the job. It's just that in many cases, especially, and I guess maybe this is the big thing, with the better bullets that we have now, you don't really have to have a Magnum to get the kind of performance you need on deer, antelope, moose, elk. Now, if you're going to be hunting grizzlies, brown bears, or dangerous game, there is an argument to be made for having the most power possible. Because at that point, it's not really, probably it's a case of just trying to get your animal, but there is at least the possibility, there is at least the potential of having to stop an animal who has decided to chew on you or stomp on you in the case of an elephant. At which point you want all the power you can get. At that point, it's kind of like, isn't it? It's kind of like your self-defense gun. You want as much as you can use and still be able to carry it and use it effectively. Which brings us all the way around to the whole self-defense issue of 45-40, 9mm 380. And some people even start saying, well, what about 22 rimfire? Generally speaking, I say no, because there was a time when if you wanted to carry a really small gun, you kind of were limited to 22 rimfires, or at least maybe 25s. But we have so many really good small guns now, in 380s and 9s. I don't think you have to do that anymore. And you honestly have a better choice in terms of something that will stop somebody who's trying to cut your head off or throw you in a van and take you away and do what they want to do with you. Just thinking, I see in the news a lot of stories. The march of the gun banners continues, and they are actually being quite effective. It is a time like I've never seen before, I have to tell you this, and I've been following this for half a century now. Right now, this year, 2019, reminds me to some extent of the run-up to the Gun Control Act of 1968, where the media got whipped up, and they whipped up the people, and the politicians said we must do something, even if it was wrong. Because to them, it's not really a matter of doing the right thing. It's a matter of being seen to having done something. If they can say, we did something. Although to be fair, there certainly are a number of politicians who definitely want to take away your guns. And now, some of them still pretend they don't want to take away your guns. They'll say, well, nobody wants to take away your guns. But in the next breath, they say, well, but of course we have to ban X, Y, Z. Sometimes saying we need to ban the sale of them, and sometimes expanding it to what they really want, which is to ban the ownership, which is, by definition, confiscation. If you ban the possession of something, it is confiscation. Now they can say, well, you have to turn them in. It's just a turn in. You have to, well, wait. If you're required to turn it in, and if it's a crime if you don't, how is that not confiscation? We'll actually be talking about that a little bit later in the show today, because coming up on March 26th, 16 days from now, bump stocks are required to be destroyed or turned in. People paid for them. Hundreds of thousands of people paid for them, bought them, because the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency, said, yes, they're fine, perfectly legal, not a problem. We've looked at them. It's good. Go ahead. And then after this monster shooting in Las Vegas, where this madman used bump stocks, they said, well, we have to do something. We'll ban these things. Not that he couldn't have done it without them, of course. And not that that's the cause of it, of course. But we must be seen to we've done something. So we got the bump stock ban. But here's the question, is it legal? Well, we'll find out. A little bit later in the show today, we'll be talking with the lead attorney that's working on these lawsuits to stop it. We still have 16 days. And the question everybody's asking is, well, what do I do if I have one? Should I hold on to it? Should I destroy it? Should I turn it in? It's a serious crime to have it after the 26th of this month. Some people are saying, well, there are going to be a lot of boating accidents. It fell out of my boat. Yeah, go with that one, but I'm not sure you really want to expose yourself to that risk. That's a conversation we ought to have as well. Tell you what, we'll have that conversation and more in just a minute. My number here is 866-TALK-GUN. I'm Tom Gresham. This is Gun Talk.
Founded with the singular purpose of building fine sporting firearms, Kimber creates a handgun for every person and a rifle for every adventure. While embracing modern manufacturing techniques, every Kimber depends on practiced hands for assembly, fit, and finish. There's no compromise in features, materials, or performance. synonymous with quality, precision, and excellence, and made in America. Kimber is what all guns should be. Visit KimberAmerica.com. That's KimberAmerica.com.
Perhaps more than any other landscape, wetlands embody the life-giving abundance that nature has to offer. And perhaps more than any other organization, Ducks Unlimited is working to ensure that our continent's wetlands not only survive, but thrive for generations well beyond this one. The time is now to band together. The time is now to rescue our wetlands.
Want great deals on guns, ammunition, and gear? Download the free Gundealio app today. With Gundealio, you can search for deals, listen to the Gun Talk podcast, watch gun videos, read gun news, and get notifications right to your phone about deals and special offers. Save money on the products you want from the companies you love. New deals, discounts, and rebates added daily. Gundealio, available for free in the App Store and Google Play.
For more than 70 years, Timney Triggers has been enhancing the shooter's experience. Whether it's a local competition, a day at the range, or even the hunt of a lifetime. Setting the standard in aftermarket triggers, Timney is now producing more than 170 models of triggers for bolt-action rifles, shotguns, AR rifles, and semi-automatic rifles. Proudly made in the USA since 1946. Find your new trigger at TimneyTriggers.com.
Our number is 866-TALK-GUN, or just dial Tom Talk Gun. I'm Tom Gresham. It is Gun Talk. If you'd like to talk about guns, actually, literally anything about guns. If you got a question about a particular gun, you're thinking about buying a gun, you never owned one before, we definitely need to have that conversation, because a lot of people think, well, I'm going to get a gun for self-protection. What kind of gun do I need? Generally, that's the wrong question. If that's where you are, call me and I'll help you out. Call me at Tom Talk Gun. Jeff's called in on line 1 out of Cave Junction, Oregon. Hello, Jeff. You're on Gun Talk.
Hi, how you doing?
Great.
My question is, are you familiar with this law that they're trying to get? I think it's going to be on the 2020 ballot in the state of Oregon, saying that your firearms cannot hold more than 5 rounds, and you have to sign for ammunition and not be able to buy more than 20 rounds a month.
Right.
Okay,
that
now my
is,
question is, question is this. Mm-hmm. Myself and a lot of my friends that over the years have acquired our collection of firearms, are they going to expect us to turn our firearms into them with no compensation or something?
Well, not at first. Not at first. But then, of course, that's the next level. Because it's always the next thing. Well, we don't, no one wants to take away your guns yet. We only want to limit your magazines to 5 rounds, which is idiotic. Will you be required to turn them in? I don't know. Let me ask you a question, Jeff. If that were the requirement, would you turn in your magazines and your guns?
No, this is turning to the Alamo, and just about everybody up that I know says the same thing. And my other question about that is who's the poor guys that they're going to try and get to enforce that?
Right. Well, inherent in your question is a larger question. It's not a case of who are the poor people who are going to be sent to try to collect them. It's what are the people willing to do to resist, because we hear a lot of talk from the Democrats these days about resist this, resist Trump. And I don't know that the gun ban cult has clearly thought through the end game of if we ban this and we send people to take the guns, what's going to happen at the point of intersection when people come to your door and say, we are here to take your guns. And I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'm just going to say people are going to get shot. People are going to get killed. I mean, and I'm sorry. People go, you shouldn't say that, Tom. You shouldn't. I'm sorry. This is what's going to happen. They have not thought this through. They don't think this will happen. They think that this is a lot of bluster from some knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing, Cro-Magnon-type gun owners. And I don't know, we don't know, 100 million gun owners in the country. If 1%, if a 0.5%, if 0.1% of them said, no, I'm not, because to do that is to give up the country. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, Jeff, but to a lot of people, to do that, to give up the guns, to let them do that, is quite literally to give up the country and to let the state have a monopoly on power. We know historically what happens there.
Yeah. Adolf Hitler did that, for the good of the people,
Well, and not just Hitler. I mean, you can go to Pol Pot, you can go to Stalin, you can go to Lenin, you can go this is a very safe statement. Every genocide in the last century has been preceded by gun confiscation. Simple. Turn them in or we kill you. I mean, and we have and this is not like conjecture, this is not myth, this is not anecdote. These are real stories of the Germans coming to French homes and saying, we have the registration list of your guns, where are your guns? And they can't find a gun. They drag the family out in the street and kill them all. Yeah. As an example to everybody else. Well, you know what? I actually started the show off today talking about collectors of guns and how they really do know history. They know that history as well, and they're not going to put up with that.
Yeah, besides that's, our basic Second Amendment right against the tyrannical government.
Well, therein lies the problem.
The tyrannical government.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I appreciate the call, Jeff. Thank you, sir. Jeff mentions the Second Amendment right against a tyrannical government, but here we have in Hawaii the legislature asking the United States Congress to repeal the Second Amendment, or at the very least to, quote-unquote, clarify it so that it no longer enshrines an individual right. If you remember, before the Heller decision 10 years ago, the Supreme Court decision in Heller, one of the biggest hoaxes in constitutional law, and lawyers were taught this in school, was that the Second Amendment was a quote-unquote collective right. It didn't actually mean that individuals had the right to own guns. It meant that the state had the right to own guns. So somehow this line, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, gets interpreted to the right of the state to keep and bear arms. Well, the term the people is used at least 4 times in the Bill of Rights, and every time it means individuals. Every time. Imagine this. You've just fought a revolutionary war against a strong centralized government. And the idea was we're not going to have a strong centralized government. Can you imagine that these incredibly smart people who put together our Constitution and the Bill of Rights would say, well, we're going to guarantee individual rights except on the gun thing. On the gun thing, we're going to reserve the right to have guns to a strong centralized government so that the people can never push back the way we just did. It defies logic. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. And yet here we are. And finally the gun banners feel free. And this is a concern because it used to be they would hide. They would say, oh, yeah, no, we don't want to do that. Now they're saying, yeah, we absolutely want to take your guns. We're going to do it a piece at a time. We're going to price you out of them. We're going to require you to pay $100 a year for your permit. We're going to charge you a tax on ammunition. We're going to make it so that nobody can have gun stores in particular areas. We're going to limit the number of guns you can have a 1 gun a month rationing system, on and on and on. And then they said, well, what we're actually going to do is we're going to repeal the Second Amendment. And that way we absolutely can take your guns because literally individuals will not have a right to own guns. They're out there now. They're, if you will, out of the closet. They're, out from behind the curtain. They're not hiding anymore. They're actually proud of their gun confiscation schemes. We have the head of Levi Strauss, the company that makes jeans, and he's saying, we're going to pay our employees to volunteer for gun control groups. No, I'm not making it up. It's true. This is fact. We're going to more than match. We're going to double our matching funds for the 5 hours a month that we encourage our employees to volunteer, and we particularly encourage them to volunteer for these gun control, gun ban groups. Yeah, there you go. They're out there. Hey, line 2, Tim is in Shreveport, Louisiana. Tim, what's on your mind, sir?
Yes, sir. We're going straight to self-defense ammo that's put out by something called Civil Defense.
Mm-hmm.
It would be something great for a small subcompact 3 1/4 inch barrel 45 automatic. What it is a fast-moving, fragmenting ammunition. It travels 1,900 feet per second.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 78 grain, but it produces 600 foot-pound energy out of your standard service model. But I'm estimating that if it loses, say, 15% of its velocity out of a 3 1/4 inch
All right.
barrel.
Let me jump in on this, okay? Because people have been trying to reinvent the self-defense handgun bullet for a long time. Basically, here's the deal. If you don't get penetration, it doesn't work. A lot of these fragmenting types don't get the penetration that you're looking for. And I'm talking about, frankly, if it won't pass the FBI's handgun protocol test, I'm not interested. If it won't penetrate glass, windshield glass, if it won't do the things that the FBI requires, I'm not interested. And people keep trying to trick this out and figure out what's actually going to work. Well, we've got it figured out. And this kind of thing, this is nothing new. I've been seeing this for more than 50 years. Pick a major brand of ammo that uses bullets that ammo has been tested and passes the FBI protocol and call it good. Simple. Hey, tell you what, when we come back, let's talk about long-range shooting, long-range competition. Are you into it? Does it work for you? How did you get into it? We'll be talking with an expert. Our number, 866-TALK-GUN. This is Gun Talk.
Good morning, Mr. Gresham. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to host a radio show that will bring truth and common sense to the discussion of firearms rights in this country. Good luck, Tom, to you and your Tom Gresham's Gun Talk team.
All right, back with you. 866-TALK-GUN is the magic number. If you'd like to join us, I'm Tom Gresham. We talk about just about every kind of shooting you can do. And just imagine, you can't even imagine how many different types of competition there is, for instance, and all the things that people do with shotguns, handguns, rifles, action shooting, fast shooting. And, of course, one of the things that's really become massively popular and fascinating as well is long-range shooting. Well, joining me to talk about that and what's going on there, Tom Fuller with Armageddon Gear. Tom, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. All right, first of all, I guess we ought to start off with, who are you and who is and what is Armageddon Gear?
Well, my name's Tom Fuller. I own Armageddon Gear. We make long-range shooting accessories. We do stuff for the military. We do law enforcement, all kinds of different agencies. We do a lot of OEM business to the gun companies in the U.S., but our biggest customer is guys that are just into precision long-range shooting.
How'd you get into this?
Well, I started shooting 3-gun years ago. I was in the Army. I was the Sergeant Major of the Army Marksmanship Unit, so I'm sure you're familiar with that unit.
Oh, you bet.
But I really liked going and watching the guys shoot 3-gun. I started doing it with them while I was there. It wasn't my job in the unit, but when I retired, I got into it, and then the precision rifle started. And started going to those events, and it was just kind of up my alley. I really, really enjoyed it and got into it and started making a few little products like most people in our sector or in our market have a great idea for a different kind of rear bag or a different kind of sling. I was one of thousands of guys that had a sling idea, but made a few in my garage and started selling them out of the garage, and people started buying them, and then another product came, and there we go.
That's kind of the culture of AMU anyway, is tinkering. What if we did this? How about this little thing? I mean, it's the whole idea behind AMU, which is how do we make people and equipment work better, right?
That's exactly right. Yep, that's what they did.
Okay, so question for you. And, it's one of those that probably isn't a real answer, but When people say long-range shooting, how long does it have to be before we can call it long range?
Well, okay, so I shoot in the Precision Rifle Series, and, the average match, and then there's the National Rifle League, and they're both very similar. They run on very similar formats. The average engagement is going to be between 400 and 600. I would say out of a 200-round match, most of them are going to be around 500 or 600, let's say that, just a few at 4. Okay. But sure. In most matches, depending on the facility, you'll shoot to 1,000 at least, and then many of the venues you'll shoot to 1,200 and further. If the facility will support it, we've shot to 1 mile in these.
Wow!
But the difference in this is it's not like an F class or a type of shooting where you're laying there trying to shoot small little groups or something at distances. You're on a clock, you have a par time, and there's a lot of movement. So it's really about building a position quickly and getting stable enough to take a well-aimed, long-range shot.
Interesting. To some extent, I would think that today's gear and technique and everything else that people are using for long-range shooting really kind of owes a lot of its history to bench rest shooting, doesn't it?
I think when it comes to, obviously the bench rest guys have standards in precision, and a lot of the calibers, like now today, one of the most popular calibers is the 6 Dasher, which is a variant of the 6 bench rest. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of the bullet technology and things have came over from bench rest.
Right.
But, other than, loading, the bullet and calibers that are used, I don't think, I think that's about as far as it goes because the two sports are so different. So in bench rest, it's all about who can shoot the smallest group, and in precision rifle, it's who can quickly and efficiently shoot a 1 or 2 MOA target. A lot different.
What kind of gear are people using for PRS? What kind of rifles?
Well, I'm sure you're familiar with Manor stocks, and there's a lot of stocks out there. So we'll start with that. So a stock or a chassis. Of course, there's a lot of chassis companies popping up. MPA comes to mind is probably the biggest one right now serving the PRS NRL community. But either a good stock or chassis, much like any sport, it's always about new equipment, new things to make you a little better. And the chassis are very, very modular.
And just for those that don't know, we want to make sure that they understand we're talking about bolt-action guns here.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. And you can, in an open class, shoot a gas gun if you'd like. You just see less and less of that. Most guys are shooting bolt guns. But so the chassis and stocks, now we've been putting rails on the stocks where you can move your bipod forward and back, and you can put barricade-type clamps, and you can attach a dope card right to your rifle. And there's just so many accessories that you can do now. But it's usually a 26-inch barrel, fairly heavy. The average gun's going to weigh 13, 14 pounds, some weigh more. You're looking at 1 pound and below triggers. 6 millimeter, anything in a 6 millimeter or 6.5 is pretty much what everybody's shooting now. The 6 millimeters, you're pushing a 108 bullet, around 3,100. Probably I would say is around average for most guys. So it's high BC bullets, speed, just.
Hey, Tom, can I get you to hold a second? I got to take a quick break here with that, and we come back. Let's continue this conversation because it's just too darn interesting, okay?
You got it, man.
All right, talking with Sergeant Major Tom Fuller. We'll be right back talking more about long-range shooting.
The next big thing for the AR-15 has arrived. The Brownells BRN 180 Upper. A modernized version of the Armalite AR-180, featuring a 16-inch barrel, a 223 wild chamber, and a full-length pick rail. The BRN 180 skips the buffer system to allow complete function of the firearm with the stock folded or extended. Best of all, the Brownells BRN 180 mounts to any mil-spec AR lower. Visit brownells.com today.
Hi, this is Tom Gresham from Gun Talk. America is losing critical wildlife habitat at a rate of 1 football field every hour. It's happening on the Louisiana coast, but it's critical to all sportsmen and conservationists. These precious wetlands provide winter habitat for more than 10 million ducks and geese annually, waterfowl that migrate north through dozens of states. Don't shrug it off. Get involved. You can help. Visit vanishingparadise.org.
You got your carry permit, and that's good. But you know you could use more training. Get the DVDs, which have what you need. Springfield Armory presents Concealed Carry 1 and Concealed Carry 2 with Bata Group. Learn specific concealed carry skills from Top Gun fighting trainers. Get trained. Be prepared. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
It's the next generation target pistol, the SW22 Victory from Smith & Wesson. Stainless steel frame, interchangeable match barrel, thumb safety, fiber optic sights, and a Picatinny rail. The SW22 Victory is ready for anything, targets or small game. Also available with a threaded barrel or cryptic camo finish. And it's backed by the Smith & Wesson Lifetime Service Policy. Learn more about the SW22 Victory at smith-wesson.com.
Hey, by the way, don't forget to go to guntalk.com/win. Brownells are giving away a classic carbine. Very cool. It's the XBRN 17E2 carbine. Check it out, guntalk.com/win. We are talking with Tom Fuller from Armageddon Gear, talking about long-range rifle shooting. Tom, I'd love to crawl inside your brain and just like pick some of the stuff out of there, because, man, anybody that's been hanging around AMU for a long time like you have, you've forgotten more than most of us will ever know about shooting, man.
You know what? I hung around the smart guys, so I did retain some of it. And I'm kind of the guy that likes to go out there and shoot, but I'm not really the technical expert at a lot of this stuff. But I have learned a little bit just by being able to hang around the smarter dudes. Just put that way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it's like, I know, a lot of folks, the Max Michels, the Julie Gollubs, the, Michael Horners, these are superstars. I mean, they're unbelievable. So let me ask you, if somebody says, okay, this sounds like fun. I like to shoot. I like a challenge, because I think long-range shooting and PRS it's a different kind of challenge. It's not, okay, you have 10 minutes to get off 10 shots. It's, you have to shoot accurately. You have to have great gear, but the gear is kind of, it has to have a combination of being really accurate, but also being quick to use. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's a very fair statement.
Okay, so somebody says, I would love to get into this. Tom, talk me through, how much is it going to cost me at an entry level to get started in this game?
Well, a lot of the larger manufacturers now are noticing the growth of this sport. So there's guns that people are being very competitive with right out of the box. So for years, this sport has been, custom rifles built by, guys that do this for a living. If you'll think back to Surgeon,
Sure.
GA Precision is still one of the biggest. There's so many great gunsmiths building custom guns for this that the gun itself is $4,000 and then a couple $1,000 scope. And then, most of us load our ammo. That's $3 or $4 a pop every time you pull the trigger. It can be expensive.
Right.
But a lot of guys, so the Ruger RPR, I believe, was directly developed for this market. So
Right.
a guy can go get a Ruger RPR in 6.5 Creedmoor and right out of the box have something he can come and have a very good showing. We've got some people, the Savages, the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at around $1,000, maybe a little bit more investment. Daniel Defense just launched
That's right.
a bolt rifle.
Yep, they got the Delta 5. Yep.
Yep, and so I think this is, all these companies coming out with rifles like this, and with the modular stocks or the modular chassis, they're built kind of for sport, and so you can get great scopes now. I mean, obviously you can still spend $3,000 or $4,000, but you've got some scopes out there that are, extremely good for the money. The Bushnell Elite Tactical Series. Those have won. The King of 2 Mile last year was one with that scope. The PRS Finale's been won several years with that. We've had the PRS Point Series one with that. So, and you can get, those are $2,000 scopes. You can, there's a lot of options more closer to $1,000 or even under to get going into sports. So you can really, with out-of-the-box ammo and out-of-the-box Ruger, Savage, some of the newer bolt guns coming out made for this sport, you can be ready to go, I think, at around $2,500 with a good rig that would not let you down.
Are some folks using suppressors?
A lot of guys are using suppressors. So, a lot of guys like the suppressor just because it's nice. It's nice for training. It's easy on the ears, but the suppressor does reduce the recoil, and a lot of guys like it for that. And it obviously increases your muzzle velocity a little bit, and so there's several advantages to it. But a good muzzle brake is a must on any rifle you put to come out here because you got to manage that recoil because you're not going to hit every target. If you can see your miss, you can make the proper correction.
I was just going to say that's the whole deal, and that's why you don't use the magnums. Is because you need to be able to see the hits or the misses through the scope so you can adjust on the fly, and because speed is the factor here.
It sure is. We just finished the match last weekend, and this one sticks in my head. It was the last stage we shot. You had 2 shots off the trunk of a car, 2 off the roof of the car, 2 off the hood of the car, 2 out the window of the car, and then you ran out and had a barricade. You had to shoot 2 shots from 2 different positions on the barricade, and that was a 90-second stage. So that's kind of typical. And those were 450 and 500-yard targets, but they're 8-inch circles at that distance, so you've got to get stable. And on the same side of that, you may lay on your belly and shoot just a field fire where you may shoot, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000 and then back in or something like that. So, some stages you get to lay there and just shoot, and some you've got a lot of moving around. But it's super fun, and it's.
But before we run out of time, tell them about Armageddon Gear. What kind of stuff you have there, and why people would want to check out your site, ArmageddonGear.com.
Okay, well, we make everything in America. We source American-made products. We're a local business. We make everything in-house, and that's kind of why we started it. It was hard to have great ideas and field it quickly. But for barricade shooting, we make a lot of bags for that. It's some of our most popular products because a lot of times you're shooting off of fence posts, top of a gate, stuff like that. And we make bags that fit on there, and you can balance the rifle on there and use what we call free recoil technique. We make gun cases. We make any accessory you would need to get into the long-range shooting game.
I'm looking here. You got equipment bags, slings, gun cases, support bags, field gear. It just goes on and on. I've always had the idea, Tom, that there's really no such thing as an inexpensive hobby because you can always spend more money on it, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
And maybe that may be why we like it.
Yeah, some people ask me what's the first thing I should do if I want to get into this sport? I'm like, mortgage your house. And then you can afford it. And, it's a joke, but none of this, any of the shooting sports or any hobby where you're going to travel to do and want to be good. Look at golf, and we're the same thing. Guys, if there's a new piece of gear out that guy thinks it's going to make him a better golfer, he's going to buy it.
Well, I mean, trap shooters, same deal. It's like if you get into it, before you know it, you bought an RV to go hit the road, and you're going to all these events, and so you will spend as much as you have or as much as you can get away with on whatever your hobby is. The cool part is, and I'm looking at your website, you got some really good stuff, and it comes from the experience of competition and your history, and I think it's just very cool. I appreciate you sharing your info. I'm going to invite you to come back. We're going to need to spend some more time talking about this.
I'd love to do it, Tom. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Tom Fuller from Armageddon Gear. It's ArmageddonGear.com. Have you gotten the bug for long-range shooting? Have you tried PRS, which is kind of a combination of speed event and long-range and precision. So it's kind of speed and precision. It's pretty cool, and the gear they've come up with is pretty neat. So I just wondered if you've gotten that bug, and if so, how did that happen, and what's your gear? What are you shooting? They're using calibers that you may not even have heard of. It's kind of like NASCAR. That's where they develop the stuff. 866 Talk Gun. I am fascinated by this story. The CEO of Levi Strauss, Levi Blue Jeans, right? Levi's, is one of the latest in the virtue signaling Olympics, trying to show the world that we're doing something. We're involved. We're sensitive. We're activist. Well, the Levi Strauss CEO, Chip Bergh, has announced that his company is going to support the youth activist working to end, quote-unquote, gun violence epidemic in America and encourage other business leaders to do the same. First of all, let's start with this. There is no epidemic of gun violence. An epidemic means it is increasing, right? Except that murders are down by half. Gun crime is down by 70% over the last 20 years. Those figures are not from the NRA. They're from the FBI. You know, the group that keeps track of crime stats and has for a long time, decades and decades. So wait, murders are down by half. Gun crime is down by 70%, and yet they're screaming that we have an epidemic of gun violence. What we have is an epidemic of really bad reporting in journalism that makes every local event seem like a national event. And so it feels as though it's happening everywhere, and it's happening more often. So the CEO of Levi Strauss is saying that they will pay their employees to volunteer for gun ban groups. Not making it up. You can't make this stuff up. He also named his brand as among the, quote, pioneers of the American West and great symbols of American freedom. And he says, because of that, here are 3 ways that they are going to be trying to restrict the constitutional rights of their fellow Americans. Wow. Wranglers, Dickies, Carhartt. I'm thinking easy. This is an easy one for me. A lot of people are doing the same thing. The virtue signaling, I don't know. Is he aware of what happened with Dick's Sporting Goods? You know, Dick's also has the Field and Stream stores. When Dick's did the virtue signaling, first they said, well, we're not going to sell AR-15s. Then they said we're going to restrict gun sales to people over 21, even though that's not the law. And then they went so far as to say Dick's, the company that sells guns and has the Field and Stream stores, is going to hire lobbyists and fund them to press for gun bans in the U.S. Congress. Well, that was kind of the point where a lot of people said, okay, I'm done. Not only am I not going to go there to buy guns and ammo, I'm not going to go there to buy golf clubs and other sporting goods. I'm not going to step foot into a Dick's store. Well, what happened? Their sales have dropped precipitously. I don't know if it's connected. Don't know. I don't call for boycotts. I just give you the information. You do with it what you will. But I sure have seen a lot of people online saying, that's it, no more Levi's for me, I'm done. And that's okay. Because if these guys are saying we're going to put our money toward gun bans and gun confiscation and the restriction of your constitutional rights, and that's where they're going to put their money, a lot of people are saying, well, then I'm not going to give you my money so that you can use that to take away my rights. That would be insane. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's the story on Levi Strauss going full-bore anti-gun, paying their employees to volunteer for gun control organizations. Holy cow. When we come back, let's talk about a little bit better story. How about kids getting involved in shooting and hunting at the university level? 866-TALK-GUN. I'm Tom Gresham. This is Gun Talk.